As far back as I can remember, I dreamt of a normal life. A life filled with normal things. A life where monsters don't live in closets or under the bed. A life where ghosts aren't real. I just wanted to be normal. But that didn't happen. It wasn't meant to be. Since my early 20s, I have experienced profound paranormal events that would change my life. Extreme poltergeist activity, living amongst those that have departed this earth in ways unimaginable. It has affected my loved ones and children with no end in sight. I could hear things, see things, and feel things not of this world. I asked myself if this was a gift or a curse. With the help of my mother and close friends, I emerged a paranormal investigator. Since 2013, I have been on a relentless journey to learn about the paranormal. This is my time to share my journey with you. Hello, and welcome to my Paranormal Soapbox. I'm your friendly neighborhood ghost hunter, Justin Brown, and we are presenting episode 83, and we are going to be talking about the quantum soul. Is the consciousness as we know it separate from our body, or is it located somewhere in the brain? Is our soul a mere, or can be merely defined as something derived from the brain, or does it exist outside the body? Because that's what dualism is all about. And all these things that we have pondered throughout philosophy of all these existential questions we're going to be talking about tonight. I promise that I will do my best to try to be relatable when it comes to the many explanations when it comes to quantum physics, philosophy, and all the other things I will be talking about tonight. But if it goes over your head, I will try to point your way. If you're interested in learning more about the topic, I'll try to point you to specific sources of the information that you can go to and learn more at your own pace. It's very hard to get your head around a lot of these things in an hour show. But if you want me to take longer than an hour to keep on trying to explain it, I will. And the reason I think this topic is very important, and the reason why I talk about it a lot on the show, is it is the basis and the key to understanding the paranormal, psychic phenomena, life after death, the soul, and consciousness itself. And that's why it's so important. But I want to first thank you guys for joining me once again. I'm happy to be back for another episode of my Paranormal Soapbox. Your feedback and opinions are important about all the topics that we address here on the show. Thank you, RU Media followers and fans, for joining us. Thank you for joining me on Justin Brown Paranormal Research on Facebook, Interface Death on YouTube, and Interface Death on Periscope and Twitch. We are very, very excited to be talking to you folks tonight. Jess and Miss, are you excited? Are you ready for tonight?
Ready as I'll ever be.
I always love it how there's a little delay.
I know. I usually let Missy speak first. I might try to.
Next week, or the next show we have, I want you to try to talk at the same time and talk over yourself.
Well, that's the reason why I don't say anything.
I know. I'm just.
We can do that.
Yeah, I want to see if you can actually do it. Try to see who wins.
We'll practice it. We'll practice.
You make it a competition.
We'll do it Thursday. Like, give me one of those, those trees to practice the drag racing.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as it turns green.
I can put that on Skype for you, and you guys can race. Okay, enough of that. So you girls are ready. If you guys are not familiar with the show, and you have not watched the show, I'm going to talk for about 10-15 minutes, give you an intro into the topic, and then I want to know what you guys think. I want to know about your experiences, what you think about what I say, if you've ever thought about the topic. I want to know what you believe and what your ideas are. This is all a community where we are very sharing. We want to know what you think. Please be vocal. You can cross chat between the platforms. Everybody can see the chat on the screen, so we all know what each other are saying. So here we go. The quantum soul is basically about the idea that the soul itself is a quantum state. And what I mean by that is that what we think of as the soul and how it's linked to consciousness, okay? Because if you're going to have to talk about the soul, if you look through antiquity, if you look through anthropology and the cultures and the theology that we've studied for years and that's been in existence, there's been a couple camps of belief. If you go to the Eastern side of things, or maybe even the Christian side of things, let's start with the Christian because most of you will relate to that. The soul and the body are directly linked, and that's why you see the soul as like a ghost, like almost like an astral projection yourself, or like a ghost image of yourself personifying you, but in a spiritual form. If you go further east and you go further back in time, your soul isn't really like the ghost form of who your physical body is, okay? So it's almost like you're an energy form without an image of who you once were. So those are two ideas that you need to think about when you want to relate or compare to the quantum soul. Now, the entanglement, like the Christian idea, is like, okay, there's a connection or an entanglement of the body and the spirit with the Christian side of things. And that's not just Christian, that's Judaism, Catholicism, and many other things. Like even the Greeks I think the Greeks originated with this idea. And it kind of flowed into and, got continued on with Christianity. But the quantum soul is something that's a new age idea, new age spiritualism, okay? Once the 20th century, the turn from the 19th century to 20th century happened, quantum physics started to take hold. We started to understand things that were smaller than the atom, the little small things that make up the atom, the electrons, the protons, the neutrons, the quarks, the neutrinos, all those particles and all those little microscopic things. When we start to study them, they do not obey classical physics. They do not obey the laws, okay? When you look at superposition, particles can be in two places at once, okay? The double slit experiment, sometimes particles act like waves, and it's hard to predict, or it's impossible to predict at times where things will be, like the decay of atoms and the decay of the particles, the radiation. You can't predict it. It's like a waveform. Light going through two splits in a screen will interfere with each other, but when you look at it, it'll turn into one point, one photon. So there's a duality there. Okay, so this has mystified scientists and everybody that looks into the subject matter ever since. But why I'm, many people, including myself, is trying to draw parallels between the quantum that we're studying and to the matters of the soul, life after death, and paranormal phenomena, i.e. psychics, mysticism, all kind of stuff like that, is when you look at quantum entanglement, there's two particles. If they become entangled, you can separate them, and it doesn't matter how far you separate them. It could be light years apart. If you do something to this one, it'll directly affect the other one instantaneously, faster than the speed of light, and there's no sign that they're connected anywhere. All they got to be is entangled. Okay? We do not know why this is, but it seems through, hypothesis and starting to become theory, there is ways that we can test this on the quantum level and the particles levels, but we're going to try to apply this to the soul. Now, if you think of the spirit, okay, if you believe in reincarnation, if you believe that the spirit is apart from our physical bodies, that would explain outer body experiences, reincarnation, life after death, so on and so forth. When we're born, we start processing information. We take on a new consciousness. Our soul may be a separate form of consciousness, but it's almost an dormant unconscious state as we're living as people. Some people are very in touch with their spirituality, people who are psychic, people who are empaths and share all those supernatural abilities, they start to become more in touch with the spiritual side of things. But let's put that to the side right now. Our consciousness and our memories are constantly storing this information and processing this information and entangling this information with our spirit, with our soul. Someone's calling me. I have no idea who it is. Hopefully they'll leave a message. Okay. They're entangling our conscious part of ourselves to our soul. So when we die, people can float outside their bodies, like near-death experiences report that they're floating above their body and they can travel down through the hull. They'll travel to these mystical places that they, perceive as heaven, or they perceive as a paradise, or they're seeing their loved ones, or they're seeing a tunnel with a light. There's a lot of similarities between what people perceive during near-death experiences, and it is not caused by what they believe culturally or what the religion is. It does not show any signs that what we believe is affected what people experience in NDEs. Okay, so that's a fascinating part of it. What I've been learning about the quantum soul is that seems to be a way to scientifically explain these things that are beyond, or seemingly beyond the scope of scientific understanding. They're starting not to be paranormal. If you start to look at the quantum level of things, entanglement would explain why our spirit can exist after death. Okay, it's like a union with the man. People keep calling me. I don't know why. That's strange. I never get calls during at night. Excuse me for that. So that would explain why there's this connection between who we are physically and who we are spiritually. There's two different things there, but it's like a union. And if you look at even more philosophically into this, the dualism part of it doesn't seem so dual. The dual nature is there. The spirit is outside the body. Okay, but consciousness seems to link and entangle the spirit and the body together in a way that makes sense for the spirit to go on. Now, we will get into more. There's more of a trinity than a duality from my standpoint, my experience and ideas. But the sole purpose of this episode is for you people to understand and look into these matters yourself, because it's a very interesting and complex thing that you need to learn about. You need to learn about the studies of Stuart Hameroff with the microtubules having quantum computations forming the consciousness that our brains have. Okay, it's not computational and binary. It's a lot more interesting that it's quantum. Wow, someone is spamming me. That's strange. Who the heck is spamming me? So when you look at the idea of Roger Penrose, the physicist, who tries to explain that the universe itself is conscious, and that explains the collapse of wave functions and the reasons why particles, just pop up in the vacuums of space in the smallest, forms of which are called the Planck level. At the smallest unit of space-time is called the Planck level. And electrons and subatomic particles pop in and out of existence from nothing. So there is a baseline energy there. So that will bring in the idea of alternate dimensions. That we're going to talk about other coexisting dimensions with our own. I'm going to be eventually writing a book about this, and probably in the next few years, I'm going to be definitely talking about all my research leading up. I'm going to have to answer this, guys. Hold on. Let's see who this is. Hello. Yes. Who is this? My father, John, huh? All right. I'll be there in a minute. Wow, people are calling me during the show and trolling me. That's pretty interesting. That's hilarious. Somebody is definitely going out of their way to make sure that they're going to try to irritate me. I think that's pretty funny. All right. So I think we've talked quite a bit enough about that. And let's do some shout outs, shall we? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Missy.
Okay. On the Justin Brown page, I have Gilson, I have Derek Schreiner, I have Amber, I have Heather, I have Powie, I have Nelson, Josh, Valerie, and Laura, and Sandy just jumped on. And I have Holly, Kathy, Dustin, and Vicky on RU Media.
Sorry if you guys are hearing echo there. I forgot to mute Missy. Thanks
and
for
the
joining
Ghost
me.
Guard just jumped on.
Awesome.
YouTube, Sam Thomas, Paranormal Reporter, Becky Compton, Darren Smith, Gateway Paranormal, Tina, Jen, Heath, and Spirit Stalker. Oh, Debbie just joined.
Hey guys, what's up? I see people are saying, Steve's like, I'm getting deep into the quantum physics theories. Yeah, it's about as deep as I can go. You know, the less pseudoscientific I can be, I think the better off my research will be. I mean, let's face it. There is been research being done for over 100 years with quantum field theory. They're still trying to call me. You definitely know that when you have haters that are watching a show and they're trying to interrupt your show by calling you on the phone, you definitely have made it into the next level. And I appreciate you haters out there trying to make it hard for me, because I'm taking time and attention out of your guys' life to direct your energy and time. So I appreciate you doing that. I mean, if I'm so important and you're taking that much time out of your life to try to make me miserable, that's pretty cool. I like that. So you can keep trying to call me and keep trying to turn me into this. What they said was they said they wanted me to come out my dad's basement. It's time for supper. So they must view me as somebody that lives in my mom and dad's basement. When I'm sitting in my bedroom, in the studio, in the house that I have.
With your wife and kids.
Yeah. I'm trying to understand anyway. So what is anybody saying, oh, Justin, he's talking out of his ass again? Or do we have any trolls in the comments, or is people interested? What's going on?
Well, first off, I forgot. Hi, Mama Donna. She said that every week she watches the show and she's like, hi, Missy, and hi, Jess.
My mother?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just wanted to say hi, Donna.
I see you, Spirit Stalker.
Valerie said your body is just the vessel, the vehicle for the soul.
Well, it's not just a vessel, and we're going to talk about it. It's not just a taxi, which is a very crude way of explaining the duality. And I want you to open your minds for just a moment when we talk about the quantum soul. Anything on YouTube on that end? Are they raring to go? Are we tuning out here?
No. Jen mentioned earlier that they speculate it's from the Big Bang, that we are all a part of the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, we all come from the Big Bang. We all come from hydrogen, gas, our physical aspects anyway. But, quantum physicists are starting to understand that there's an inherent attribute of consciousness embedded in space-time. And let's talk about that right now. Consciousness at the crudest level is information processing. Anything that can process information, respond to outside stimuli, and is aware of their surroundings, even at the crudest level, is conscious. Are they as conscious as we are? Probably not. At least it's vastly different from our form of consciousness. Look at an atom. When it exchanges, when you talk about the quantum leap, the electrons leap between orbital levels of atoms, and they just don't do that randomly. Okay, there's positive charges and negative charges and neutral charges. Okay, those charges interact with each other. A lot of people and scientists especially look at them at just laws. but they're interacting with each other and processing information. So there's a level of consciousness there. There's a level of awareness and a job. There's work being done. Now, when you start looking at the chemical level, the chemical processes become even more conscious because you have chemicals and substances that are bonding in specific ways to other chemicals, making molecules, and you're becoming more complex structured things of matter. So the consciousness has levels and steps, and when you get all the way up to animals like we are, it's very complex, highly involved systems that contain many different other conscious things, but we are mostly unconscious of, unless you start steering your consciousness and your attention to these things. Now, there's many practices, a lot of them very ancient, that deals with meditation, that deals with biofeedback training, that deal with, paying attention to your breathing, placing your hands together like this. Anybody who prays or anybody who meditates like this, what they'll start to experience is their own pulse. Okay? And you'll start feeling your own pulse when you put your hands in the prayer position. If you've ever done that, you're actually now paying attention to your own pulse right now. The more you push it together, the more you'll feel it. Okay? Chinese put their fingers on their wrists to feel the pulse. And what they're sensing and looking for is how variant the pulse rate is. Does it get fast? Does it get slow? Or does it stay the same? Is it stable? And that tells them certain things about stress levels, about instability in the body. Okay? I don't mean to digress there. But the main takeaway I want from this show is that science can start to understand the spiritual. Consciousness, we're going to talk about primarily during the show, but if anybody else has any questions or any other ideas that kind of just stir away from consciousness into other things, that's fine. But the first thing I want you guys to look up is Stuart Hameroff. He is an anesthesiologist who studies consciousness and has developed a theory with Roger Penrose, which is a physicist, called the the Orchestrated Objective Reduction, which takes Roger Penrose's objective reduction model and applies it to quantum computation in the microtubules of the brain. So we're not looking at just standard computational processes that creates consciousness. It's quantum computational processes in the microtubules of the brain that allow us to quantumly interact with everything that we perceive and that is physical in this reality, and entangles with not only this physical realm but the spiritual realm. So that's what's really interesting. Your brain is designed not only to have spiritual faith and spiritual understanding and yearning for higher powers and things that are out there that may be beyond our five senses that we become so used to and reliant on. There's much out there that the brain is capable of. I believe strongly, and me and my mom's talked about this for a long time, that there is lost knowledge of these things that have existed in ancient cultures and ancient societies, where maybe even back, the pre-Egyptian or the early Egyptian area, where you see the pineal gland symbols everywhere. They knew, or it looks like they knew, these ideas, and a lot of Eastern mysticism and Hinduism and spiritualism out there had known for a very long time. So, non-local, being entangled with things or entangling yourself with things not next to you is an actual thing in science. It's not pseudoscience. It's not bullshit. It's an actual real thing. So that you can start to explain things like that. You can start to explain things like telepathy. You can start explaining things like energy healing. Okay? It gets really complex, but you can start applying science to these things, which legitimizes it as a real study, and you can take it places that are, you can say that these things are not pseudoscience because of this, because they apply to established scientific principles. And when you can do that, you can start creating hypotheses that can fit into models and start being formed into theories, actual theories, and they can be testable, but it requires a lot of work. Go ahead with Spirit Stalker's question.
Okay. Well, I was going to read Levin's first,
Okay.
because you were just talking about that. Wanted to know, is that why some of us can turn it on and off sometimes?
I believe that you can have control over it, but not everybody does. I think that you can access different parts of your brain when you want to, but it's not like a switch that anybody can just turn on and off. Like, it's difficult for even the most gifted metaphysicists out there to turn it on and off. I wish it was that easy. So kind of making it synonymous with turning on a light switch on and off is not exactly true, but kind of.
Spirit Stalker asks, weird questions. I've always wondered about our energy after we die, and how does it lingers. But how about when you get a part of your limb amputated? Does it have its own energy, or is it just our brain's energy?
I believe that if your brain is used to having an arm and you lose it, and then they report it still aching, amputees report that they still feel it there or that it's aching, that is a psychological construct. Like, your brain really doesn't know how to turn off the awareness of your arm, even though it's not there. Okay, and that's what makes your brain a much easier to adjust to the appendages that you wear. What are they called, girls? I can't think right now. The fake arms. What are they called?
Prosthesis?
Prosthetics. Okay, so you can easily use prosthetics if they have different ways that you can contract your muscles or move your arm to control them. So your brain, there is like a visual feedback. So you can, when you start moving it, you can easily train. When I say easily, it takes practice, but it's not something that's impossible for anybody to do.
Well, I've actually seen videos and stuff, having a prosthetic arm or leg, and actually with all the technology that we have now, that the brain, it wires it and it's able to move like normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't want to say it like that, but
yeah, I mean, I don't know how it applies to, the quantum computations in your brain, but what I want you guys to understand is science observes quantum effects happening. They can see things be in multiple places at once. The very, very small things, the subatomic things. But we're made up of subatomic things. So what's very hard to understand is how my hand is there. Okay, it's right here. It's not both here and there. But the particles that make up my hand, when we look at it that closely and that smallly, it down to the small scale of the subatomic, the parts that make up my hand are in multiple places at once. So it doesn't make sense to that part of our brain. But the spiritual part of our brain, it makes sense. Okay? So when people tap into the spirit, the quantum makes sense. The quantum is real, and the classical is just in that slightly shifted part of, dimension that's next to us. And we can get into that. There's a spirit realm. There is a spirit dimension. I am convinced of that. And it's overlaid over top of where we at right now. So if a psychic or whatever said there's a spirit standing right here, they're literally standing right there, but you cannot see that spirit there because it's not there physically. And another dimension is where it exists, but we coexist in the same space, so to speak. It's there, but it's not. Okay? So it gets really complicated, guys. In quantum physics, there's ideas that since things can be in multiple places at once, there might be other physical dimensions parallel to dimensions that these other possible locations of physical matter exist. And it's called the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. That's one idea. But they say we can't see those because they decohere from our physical reality. I don't think that's entirely true, because paranormal phenomena can be explained because you can see things pop in and pop out of existence. It's been reported for thousands of years. A lot of people just like to say it's poltergeist activity. Things move on their own. You see ghost-like entities moving in and out of places, and you may perceive them as ghosts, but you might be perceiving another reality that's parallel to yours. I believe that these oscillate in and out and phase in and out. I believe that our senses sometimes shift, okay? Something triggers these senses in our eyes, in our brains, to detect the things that we normally can't see. That's just an idea, that's a hypothesis, but it looks like it is feasible, okay? It's plausible. That's where we're at now. But the whole idea of the quantum soul is the most important aspect, because if we can start looking at that and directing some serious science and resources into that, the problem of consciousness will be explored more, and we can find more answers, because we can understand that how we can move our arm up and down, or how we can see each other, but we don't understand why we have subjective experiences. We don't understand how to explain I think, therefore I am. Okay? That is not computational. That is something else. The universe is aware of itself through us, through everything in its existence. And science has not yet explained that. But if our consciousness is a way to entangle the quantum world with the physical world, the quantum world might be all these other dimensions and, spiritual things out there, because the quantum world is basically a probability of things existing. And if you don't quite understand quantum physics, go down a rabbit hole, start watching videos, start reading books about it. I know a lot of people ask me what books they should be reading and what resource material they should be checking out, and I help them out with that. So if you want me to, pick out certain books, message me or email me, and I'll give that information to you. Are you girls? I know, Jess, you said this goes over your head. Have my explanation helped you understand anything yet?
A little bit.
Like, what is it that you don't understand? She doesn't know.
Well, to me or Missy?
I asked you.
Oh. I don't know. I think I'm just scared of the word quantum. And when you start talking, I think I have a better grasp on it, of what I was able to pay attention with, being involved in the chat and stuff. But
right, like if
I have any questions, I will message you when I think about them later.
If you watch the videos and the people who have studied it kind of like sit, in front of an audience and talk about it, and they have visual representations to kind of draw out what they're talking about. I don't have that right now, and it takes a lot of time and work to prepare that, and I don't want to bore everybody. So that's why I'm not doing it now. That's why I'm kind of like, if you're really interested in this, go research it, because I cannot do it in an hour show. I can't do it in a 2-hour show. I can't do it if I stream for 24 hours. I just won't be able to retain that and your attention for that long. It'll take you a while to get into it. But the very fact that science and the things that they observe and the things that they have proven at the quantum level the fact that there's parallels from that to the paranormal is very exciting, and that's why I have been doing it for the last 5-6 years, specifically and intensely last 5 or 6 years. I've been interested in all that stuff since high school, but since I've been, researching ghosts and hauntings and life after death and stuff, I've looked into it more and more, because to understand really anything, you got to understand consciousness. You got to understand, what makes up everything. You got to understand the physics behind everything, and once you get your head around it, you have these periods where you start to feel like you can start understanding. But it took me a while. Like, I can understand why, anybody who would be getting in this right now or recently, or just hearing about it on the show for the first time, would be like, I don't really get it. But is there any question? I know that I seen a question on YouTube. I don't know.
Yeah. Is there any on Facebook, Missy?
No, I have a couple comments on RU, but no questions.
Spirit Stalker Afterlife, weird question number 2. I wonder what keeps other dimensions from being communicating with us clearer, since I assume they are so much smarter than us. I don't believe that they just don't want to. What prevents them?
She asked, what's preventing us from, seeing the spirit world?
What is keeping the other dimensions from communicating with us clearer? And what is preventing them, if something prevents them from communicating with us?
Okay. I don't know for sure, but if we are stuck using our 5 senses, our sight, our hearing, our smelling, our tasting, and our feeling, that deals primarily with physical things. Okay? Sometimes, in rare paranormal situations, quotation marks, we can. The reason why we can't all the time is they're in an existence that's they're not in our dimension. Okay? The other dimension is made up of maybe completely different laws of physics. Okay? That's most likely the case. Or it's made up the same laws of physics, but physics we don't understand. Now, quantum field theory could explain a lot about that. But since not everybody understands quantum field theory, even the people who study it, it's very hard to understand how it works. Okay? Everything is about vibration, energy, fields of energy. Okay? If you have abilities that can detect that type of energy, those type of fields of energy, of fields of existence, then you can. But just ask my mom. If you have never asked my mom how's it feel to be in multiple dimensions and times at once, it's nightmarish. It can be very nightmarish and very hard. And she has to seclude herself because she can look very nuts to some people that don't understand how she can do that. That's why the people who are truly psychic, that are truly gifted, do not read tarot cards on the internet and charge people, because they cannot do it. Now, that's no offense to the people who do that, but those are not the people who can pick up on these things strongly and whenever they want. So those people end up alienating themselves from others because of that. It's too much. Someone can get bombed in Iraq or tortured in, Australia. Maybe all the animals that are burning to death right now. If you could feel that right now, do you think I'd be, talking to you on the show? No, I'd be curled up in a ball in my bedroom, sobbing and probably screaming to death. My mother is probably doing that right now. And it takes all of her energy and all of her will to shut that away. And that's a sad thing, to shut all that sympathy away. Why would you want to do that? You would feel inclined to want to do something. And a lot of people who connect with those type of things want to act. So you see those people driven. That's why people want to save animals. That's why people want to rescue rescue people that are in fires, or that cops do those things, or so on and so forth. So the reason, to answer your question, the reason why you cannot see them all the time is you're stuck in a physical body that senses physical things. Even though you're capable of doing more, it's really not feasible to be doing both at the same time. You just can't handle it. Anything else?
I have a question on are you in my opinion there no of. Am I wrong on this? This is where the saying comes from that two things cannot be in the same place at the same time, or so we are taught.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
He said, in my opinion, there are only 5 dimensions that we as humans and or scientists know of. Am I wrong on this?
In string theory, there's 9, excluding our dimension. There's more than 5 dimensions when you're talking about string theory. Now, there might be some model that someone has put together that has 5, but I don't read about those, and I don't study that, whatever that is. But when string theory talks about multiple dimensions, and altogether there's 10 and possibly even 11. M theory has 11. Okay, but if the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics is true, there is infinite dimensions. Infinite. And not only is there infinite dimensions, our dimension is fractal. And what that means is no matter how small in scale you go or large in scale you go, it does not end. So let's just say you can go smaller than the electron, smaller than the quark, smaller than the string, smaller than the Planck scale. It goes further and further and further and does not stop. That's still in our dimension, but keeps going. Go in the opposite direction. It gets bigger than the universes, bigger than the multiverse, bigger and bigger and bigger. You get the point. So not only is our dimension infinite, there's an infinite number of those infinite dimensions. So what the problem is, humans want to quantize things and they want to make things finite. So if things are finite, if this circle is only this big, we can figure out the volume of the circle and we predict its motion in space-time. But since there is no such, if things are not finite, when you're looking at the whole big picture, you can't quantize infinity. You can't quantize, anything that's fractal or just has no end.
I do have a question.
Okay.
From Mothman. Have you read The Quantum Bigfoot by Ron Moorhead?
No, but I know about the theory. You can elaborate on what the book talks about, like what part of the book the idea of quantum Bigfoot is interesting, but it doesn't just pertain about Bigfoot. It pertains to everything. And that's what I really want to talk about. It's not just about Bigfoot, it's about everything.
Sam asked him about the plants that scientists did so as to have touch on the soul.
What?
Heather asked it again. I don't know if she's doing talk to text or something, but I wasn't able to.
Heather on YouTube. Let's look for it.
No, Sam Thomas. Did I say Heather?
Yeah, I thought so.
Nope, she didn't. She's Sam.
Oh, okay. I was like, what?
So I don't think anyone will ever touch on that until you are touched. That's what she said. Sam Thomas.
No, go up.
Ask him about the plant that scientists did so as to have touched on the soul. I don't know what that means, Sam. I'm sorry. I don't know what you're asking there. Donna says, I have been learning a lot on YouTube type in Greg Braden on YouTube, and it had helped me to understand quantum physics some. There is a lot of stuff on YouTube that'll help you understand. I haven't heard of him, but there.
Paul Browning just jumped on too.
Hi, Paul. We are talking about the quantum soul and Stuart Hammerhoff and Roger Penrose's theory of orchestrated objective reduction, explaining consciousness on a quantum level, and how it pertains to paranormal phenomena, the soul, and multiple dimensions, and psychic abilities. How things can be non-local, how things can become entangled, all that rabbit hole stuff. I'm trying to read some of these. There's
One more quick question that's driving me nuts. Okay. Why is there a white box underneath the...
That is the donation bar.
Oh, okay.
If someone uses the PayPal link in the video and donates using our Streamlabs link, that bar will move. And the goal is $200 by February 1st. We have not gotten any donations since I put it up. But if you want to help research with what we're doing, if you want to help with the production of these shows and the video productions that we do, everything, if you want to help with, hit the button. If you want to help with everything, that's how you do it. It could be $1. It could be whatever you want. But just by watching the show and commenting, that's good enough if that's all you can do.
George said, first time here, driving through Facebook and saw this.
Hi, George. Thanks for stopping by, buddy.
Mothman says, I was just saying the book is similar to what you're saying, using specific concepts and language to describe something folklore or spiritual.
Right. I believe you can play it to anything paranormal and anything not, anything just normal. Obviously, it applies to normal things.
Paul Browning said, I wonder if quantum entanglement is how we keep a soul attached to our body.
That's what the quantum soul theory suggests. What it suggests is that there is an entity or an energy or a phenomena that inhabits our physical body, but is like a dual thing, okay? Throughout philosophy and theology and pretty much all belief structures that's not skeptic or atheist or agnostic, they believe that our bodies are vessels for another entity. When that enters our body from conception in our mother's womb all the way till we die, our physical body are quantum machines that entangle and imprint that spiritual entity with information and processes that information, entangles it with that energy. So when we die, it detaches, and now it's non-local from the body, but that would explain outer body experiences, that we can float above our bodies and see ourselves. That would explain a lot of things in dreams, psychedelic experiences, experiences that metaphysicists had and normal people, like Josh Bender, he's had outer body experience that he would like to, understand, and this can explain it. So yes, you are correct. And Paul, if you have not, Stuart Hammerhoff, Roger Penrose, and the orchestrated objective reduction theory of consciousness that deals with quantum computation and the microtubules and the brain cells pretty much orchestrate the collapse that is found on the subatomic level in order to create consciousness in our brains. It doesn't explain consciousness and information processing across the board, but our form of consciousness, that's what it explains. And how it's entangled with the soul and can exist after we die. What else is going on here? Spirit Soccer says, my kid studied quantum physics and drew cool pics about it. I never understood what drove her to the topic. Now I want to go through some of her journal writings to see if I find them. You absolutely should. And then you should go down your own rabbit holes and start studying it yourself, because Justin said.
She said earlier that quantum physics is over her head, so she likes listening to you.
Well, I appreciate that, but if you want to learn about quantum physics, I'm not the greatest. I'm the one that could get you interested in it. I understand it enough to sound like I know what I'm talking about and hopefully write my own book about it in a few years once I feel confident that I do have a model. So because orchestrated objective reduction is one model, but I think it goes even beyond that. It's more vast. I believe that, this water bottle is conscious. I believe that it is a conscious thing. The atoms in it process information. The molecules in it are processing information. Panpsychism is another thing you guys should look into. It states that consciousness is in everything and inherent in the universe. And I believe that. I don't believe that this thing is the same conscious thing as me, but that doesn't mean that it's not conscious and aware of itself and aware of its surroundings. Jen says, I would read that for sure. Is a book?
Paul Browning said, a good read, The Afterlife of Billy Fingers, real interesting.
I've heard of that. But I have not read it. Derek's still sharing the stream. You go, Derek.
Yeah, Gilson, if you share it off of Facebook, you get the little zombie guy.
Oh, is he asking about the little zombie guy?
Yeah, they like the zombie.
Well, I'm glad that they like the zombie. You can pick different emotes. Yeah, if you donate, if you share it, if you like it, if you follow the page, you'll get that.
Hi, Ghost Sisters. We're almost done, but you're welcome to watch.
I'm just getting here. What we are talking about is something very few shows talk about, but shows do talk about it. We're talking about the quantum soul, how to relate quantum theory and quantum physics with paranormal phenomena like psychic phenomena, outer body experiences, the soul itself, paranormal phenomena, multiple dimensions, non-locality, all those things. Another good read, Evidence of the Afterlife by Jeffrey Long. One of the stories and documentaries I just watched is Science and the Soul. I think that's what it's called. And they talk about the James kid that had the memories of a fighter pilot, which is named James, that died in World War II. And his parents researched all the things he's saying, actually found the person who died and talked to his family and all his friends that he fought with. And all the stuff this kid knew about this other fighter pilot's life was uncanny. There's no way to explain all the stuff this child knew except for reincarnation. I did share this documentary, United Paranormal Society, and that's just one thing about it. And that's pretty much what got my brain thinking about the subject again and wanting to talk about it again, because I think it's one of the most important things to take the time to learn about, because it's not pseudoscience. It is actual science. You can apply actual science to these things. Despite what Sam says, Sam doesn't think that science can explain the soul. Yes, it can. You just need to understand how. You need to take my word for it and understand how. There's many other people smarter than me that's already been doing it. So you might as well get on board. Jump on that bandwagon. If you don't, you're going to be left in the dust.
Kathy said, read Russell Targ's book on evidence of ESP.
I've heard of it, but I have not read it. There's so many good books out there. Hundreds of books that are good about the subject. Very, very, there's lots of sources of information. I know Paul has read a lot about it. And obviously, other people watching has read. And I'm glad that people are interested in it, because I'm obsessed with it. I try to, the girls ask me questions and I try to teach them it, but I think they just need to learn about the stuff that I'm learning about so they can be on the same page. But I don't know if they have any interest. They pretend like they don't have the capacity to learn, but I think that's horseshit.
I was just going to ask that, Jess. Would we actually... Right? Gone.
You can do it. I have faith in you all. The reality of ESP.
If I were to, I would have to have like complete silence. I get distracted too easily when it's something that I don't understand.
Mm-hmm. Do you easily give up if it's something that is
Oh
hard?
yeah.
She would be messaging me going, Missy, play Uno with me.
I love Uno.
How does that come into the conversation?
Well, she'd be sitting there watching this show and not understand what the hell's going on, and she'd just start playing Uno. And
I've always been like that, even in school. I mean, just if it's something that excuse me, that I feel that it's pretty far-fetched for me to grasp, and I just kind of like shut it down. Like I just don't get it.
Yeah. Steve White says studying quantum physics is not as hard as it sounds. It is very hard. The people that know the most about quantum physics will tell you that if you think you understand quantum physics, then you don't. It's the most misunderstood thing because it's not logical. It's counterintuitive. But when you do experiments and you do the math, it constantly is proven and constantly works out. But we don't understand why. Like, we don't understand how things can be in different places at once. We don't understand quantum entanglement. Albert Einstein didn't understand it. If Albert Einstein doesn't understand it, it's not easy, folks. Okay, read the history about it. So, if you find it, blows your brain up and it's over your head, do not feel bad because it's over Einstein's head. The math isn't, but the concepts are. The concepts are mind-blowing and is very difficult to understand. Well, the math is hard, but not for Einstein. Go ahead.
Spirit Stalker, last weird question. Is my out-of-body experience due to anesthesia during surgery the same as out-of-body experience by doing meditation?
Mechanically, yes, but the means in which it happens, maybe not. Okay? Anesthesia is where Stuart Hammerhoff started learning about consciousness, because if you want to learn about consciousness, you got to understand how anesthesia works. Anesthesia experts and people who do that for surgery don't completely understand how it just turns off the consciousness. They believe, Stuart Hammerhoff believes, that it happens at the very quantum level in microtubules in the brain cells. But the outer body experience, that is a quantum effect. That is the entanglement effect that your spirit has with your own consciousness. So it's kind of like you're uploading your consciousness and connecting it to the spirit web. But the spirit web is an avatar. Your spirit's an avatar. Like, you can draw analogies here, or you can make a metaphor. Your spirit is if the spirit world is the internet, and on the internet you have an avatar, like your Facebook profile or your avatar, okay? And you can upload all your information to your avatar and walk around with it representing everything that you know and who you are, but it's not you. But it is at the same time.
Bill says Justin has an 8 terabyte hard drive hooked to his head.
No, it's probably like a 1 terabyte that I have to keep deleting stuff and putting stuff back in.
MP asks, I believe it's for you. He said Jason, but I don't know if there's a Jason in the chat or not. What is your best argument for reincarnation?
My argument for reincarnation is the anecdotal evidence that we have, like the James guy. I don't remember the kid's last name, but there's a documentary on United Paranormal Society called Science and the Soul that I posted. If you want, type 1 in the comments if you want me to post it. I'll bring it up now. Is those anecdotal reports, kids knowing stuff about people that have lived before them and have died, uncanny amounts of information. Also, if the logic is, it does not make sense for someone to come into existence and then not do anything after that. Like, if you don't come back into the physical and keep processing information and keep learning from this existence, then it's like you just stay in stasis till the end of time, and that's all you do. You live your 100 years here on Earth, and that's it. That makes absolutely no sense to keep doing that over and over and over. The cyclic quality of reincarnation is more logical. Okay, when you stand in line of your favorite ride at Kings Island, you ride it for the first time. Is that ever good enough? If you enjoyed it, you're going to want to ride it again, but you're going to be constantly chasing that first experience that you'll probably never get. I believe that's why that's kind of like is a good metaphor for reincarnation. You want to keep going back to that ride.
Gilson said there was a 5-year-old that found the man who murdered him and where he was buried and the weapon he used in his past life, and the man confessed to it.
Right. There's thousands of anecdotal pieces of evidence that support reincarnation. But if reincarnation is not the explanation for these things, what if there's ghosts of these people that are trying to latch on to people and almost like possess these kids? Like to take over their body? Like that might be some kind of possibility. I've thought about that. What do you guys think about that? Go ahead and read Paul's.
He said, I wonder if a spirit can communicate freely to another spirit, but the ability is kept from a typical living person, yet they might hear all we think, thus defeating a ghost hunter's plan because they read your mind. Who knows?
Paul, I do believe that they can read your mind. I do believe that the EVP and the ITC field that is like the most crudest way to communicate with spirit. I do believe spirits communicate, but it's on a telepathic, what we could probably think is telepathic. That's the only way I can kind of describe it and explain it now. But I do believe that if there's spirits exist, they do not have to hear us speak to them. They can read our thoughts, they can read our mind. And I believe spirits are on a higher level of existence, or most of them anyway, and they can go forward, go backwards in time. They can do whatever they want. They're not constrained to the linear flow of time.
Nocturnal Research Society said, would that be called channeling?
Would what be called channeling?
I think what you were just discussing about not saying anything.
No, that's telepathic communication. Channeling would be like a physical medium, would be like allowing a disembodied intelligence or consciousness to enter their own body and their own consciousness and speak and work through them. That's channeling. And from my understanding. I'm sure others would explain it differently or totally disagree with that. Philip says, not all spirits can communicate with each other because some may be in other dimensions and different frequencies. I agree with that 100%, Phil. May I call you Phil? It's easier to say. Yeah, I like a lot of things, ideas that Philip has. He definitely thinks about this a lot, and I like that. Yeah.
Why do you think that they can read our minds?
Well, before you speak, you think it. You formulate the ideas and the information in your head first. Okay? So it exists there. If our consciousness is entangled with the spirit, and that information is already being uploaded to the spirit, I believe that's how the other spirits get information from us. I don't believe that they dip into our dimension and all of a sudden grow ears that they don't have and hear the compression waves caused by our speech and interpret it through a so-called ear. There's no reason for me to believe that. I believe that the quantum effects of our mind and the connection with the spirit world is how they're able to understand anything that we say. In rare situations, they can come into the physical realm and manifest acoustic anomalies, acoustic phenomena, which is actual voices that we can hear with our ears. That is a very crude way for a ghost to get something across to us, okay? I believe that's why spirits and mediums can talk to ghosts and spirits and dead people, because they understand the link, the quantum link they have with the spirit realm. Yeah, Paul says, yeah, I really think we can't use the ability while alive in most cases yet, as we think they hear. Right. But if you're open to the psychic phenomena, we can.
Jen says you can tell the difference between ear sounds and instant communication.
Yes, absolutely. Phil, mediumship is mental telepathy. It's all vibrations and frequencies. Right. It's quantum. Let's go there, Philip, together. Say it with me. Quantum. It sounds cool, right?
Excuse me. MP says I look at the seasons. Everything is born, dies, but the source says the trees live for hundreds of years. Are we the seasons?
I'm not getting that metaphor.
Your mama's on.
She's been listening the whole time, I guarantee you that, or most of the time. You are electromagnetic and is broadcasting our thoughts and emotions, and the soul can translate into multiple ways and more. Yes, so what my mom is talking about is the pineal gland. That's the little organ deep down inside your brain, in the middle of your brain, that's supposed to, in theory, transmit the frequency, as she's talking about, the electromagnetic wave. Now, if that's true, it should be detectable, but we have not yet detected the electromagnetic wave. So it might be a different wave propagating in a different energy field that we cannot detect that's not electromagnetic. So I don't know if I can agree with my mom that it's electromagnetic, but it can be electromagnetic. It's very possible, but it's not detected yet that I know of. Mom, will you please let me hook up an EMF meter to your brain so we can prove that you're right? Let's make this happen. Philip says, spirits communicate by telepathy. Some interpretation depends on the clairs that the medium has, can be vision or downloading information. Yes, if you're claircognizant, as I download, like Jess is very good with, you can be clairaudient and hear them. You can be clairsentient and feel them. You can be clairvoyant and see them. You're correct. Is there, Paul says, is there a finite amount of souls? That is a great question.
Your mom says yes.
She says I can hook her up to machines.
She said yes.
Yes. She has answered my prayers. Paul, honestly, I believe that what we perceive as the soul is not a singular thing like we are. I think that it could be something more than one at the same time. Kind of like, if it's a quantum thing, I believe that soul, that's kind of like how somebody can haunt multiple places at once type of thing. So souls cannot be quantized in the same way we are. Kind of like electrons can't be quantized in the same way like a molecule can. That's the best way I can answer that right now. I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you on that. Gil says, come on, Mom.
Spirit Stalker says, just made my little brain cells think tonight.
Yes. Mission accomplished. And I don't mind going past the hour because I really want people to think. I really want people to grasp this because it is so important. It is so important to start understanding the non-physical and what we call the quantum. Okay, because I hear a lot of skeptics and scientists out there saying, "Oh, dumb people just use the word quantum and attach it to things that are pseudoscientific just so they can sound smart or try to make the pseudoscientific scientific." That's not true. There's so many books and so many avenues of research that's just a gross statement. Philip says, I'm clairvoyant, cognizant, and sentient. I do not want to have them. A disembodied voice is completely different. Yes, it is. That's actual. Physical manifestation, it's acoustic energy. So it is very different. Yep. Night's Watch Paranormal is here. Mothman historian, psychics are tuned into the super spectrum naturally. Others have to try and develop it. Most never get as good a signal. Everyone is able to tap in a small bit through divination, randomness, and syncs. I would love to know if that is true or not. The divination and the randomness, like of tarot cards and other forms of divination, I'll say it again, I'm not a fan of many forms of divination. There might be something to dowsing rods. I will say that. There might be something to pendulums. There might be something with tarot cards, but I have not seen convincing evidence presented to me yet about those things. Sandy Hickley says, what happened? I looked away and looked back, and Melissa turned into a man. She's a quantum construct. She's both Derek and Missy at the same time, and you are perceiving that quantum fluctuation. Congratulations. Hey, from the Archive of the Afterlife. What's up, Steve? What do you think about the quantum soul theory, Steve? And go. Nocturnal Research Society says, you think we will attain great understanding and true nature of the otherwise, and since we're human, we are limited because of our mind's capacity. No. Yes, we are limited, but it's not impossible to understand. I think that it's in our nature to ponder and to figure these things out. We're doing so good so far.
MP says, tell him I've heard spirits tell me answers through Ghost Box before I ask the questions.
But I'm not going to be an advocate that we can objectify what we hear through a Ghost Box as a legitimate form of spirit communication, because it is 100% subjective in most case scenarios that I observe, even in my own research. So there's nothing that I see in general in the paranormal community that says that ghost boxes are an objective and critical form of scientific research.
Paul had a question. Paul had a question. He said, if life exists on other planets, can we reincarnate into a body out there?
If the theory of reincarnation is true, it's possible, but based on the stuff that I have researched, we have a choice what we reincarnate into. Not everybody will agree with that, but most of the theories and beliefs of reincarnation say that. So if I die and I'm floating around, I'm like, I want to take another crack at it. I want to be like, well, I don't want to be that fly. I don't want to be that six-armed, two-headed alien in that other universe, because that's not relatable. I want to be that person starving in Africa because I had it so good the last time. I want to know how it feels to appreciate a glass of water, clean water. Okay, folks? The reason, let's get really deep and philosophical here. Let's say Paul Browning, he is fighting cancer right now. And he's going to beat it. Let's just face it. Let's just say someone died and was completely healthy and took it for granted his whole life. When he saw people, fighting disease and fighting all these adversities throughout their life, and they want to appreciate things even more. So maybe they wanted to reincarnate into Paul Browning, knowing that he would have that adversity in his life, to know what it means to be faced with a terminal illness, fight it, and win. To appreciate life at that level is so profound to Paul. It will be equally profound to somebody who has not experienced it, would not know how that feels. That is living the essence of life. That is why we are here, folks. We are here to know what those things are like. The appreciation of the smallest thing. Mom says, I have come to find out that disembodied voice. I have come to find out that disembodied voices is only from the human's point of view. The voices actually do have bodies or whatever of types. That is true. Yeah. Disembodied voices pretty much means we hear a voice, but we don't see a corresponding body. But that doesn't mean that the body's not there.
Well, that's why I just tell you I heard a voice. I don't say I heard a disembodied voice.
Yeah, it's just semantics, Mom. I'm sorry, semantics. We're not going to use the same terminology of my mom because for where she's standing, it's an actual person speaking. I'm sorry. But I don't mean to use Paul, to call Paul Browning out on that. But, talking to him personally and having a deep respect and love for the man, and how he's handled his situation, that's how everyone should handle their situation. And that's how you transcend, the bleakest moments in your life and come out on the other end. I mean, you have to, you got to, right? That's the best way to do it. He's like, oh, Philip's like, I'm not coming back unless it's through a shack hack. I don't believe you. I believe that's a joke. Uh-oh. Does anybody else have any questions? You want me to keep going? I'm retaining quite a bit of audience here, which I am very surprised of. I'm going to take it as a compliment. Even though people called me and tried to make me into a loser in the beginning of the show. That's just the
what
greatest
Derek
thing.
said that was somebody calling about your car's extended warranty.
I wish it was, but it wasn't. They were calling until I picked up because they knew I was live and I had my phone number on the page.
Paul said pounding that cancer into the dust daily.
That's right. That's right. Mind over matter. It is. I believe it's real. It's more real than real. It's more real than real. There's so many stories that I've read out there that the doctors told them there's no hope of living, and they completely heal from it because they believe they could. That's real, folks. It's real. Not everybody has their prayers answered, but it does happen. And the more support that they have and the more faith that they have and belief that they have, the better off you'll be. Paul's looking pretty good right about now, too. Mothman says, I read old books from the 60s and 70s. The ones that try to cram in the science of the day end up dated and inaccurate because of it. The ones that are straight spiritual hold up. That depends. Like old Eastern beliefs and philosophies and ideas do hold up and are being, looked at even closer now because of quantum physics and quantum theory. And even medicine is starting to look at it now. But 60s and 70s, there's still a lot of accurate science that we still look, that still hold true to today, especially quantum theory and quantum physics do.
Philip says EVPs and a disembodied voice have different hertz, which is interesting since there's no visible voice box with either. Thoughts?
An EVP is the medium is the device. So it can't be measured into hertz unless you digitize it and measure the hertz of it that way. You can do that. But it's completely different because disembodied voices are as an actual physical energy. It's energy doing work on the air, the atmosphere that we're in right now, compressing the air into waves that are picked up by our ears that we hear. That is the physical property of the phenomena. If spirits can use a ghost box, if they can imprint their voices or manipulate the transducers and microphones and the recorders, that is a completely different physical process that we are testing right now using Paul Browning's equipment. RVPR. Hashtag RVPR. Oh, Steve White says, seems like in today's times, more scientists are open to paranormal theories. Some are. Because they're open. They're actually open-minded. There are open-minded scientists that will take a look. Having the experiences or not. They want to know. Science, open-minded science is cool because you're like, okay, Here's a mystery. Here's a question. Let's apply it using rigid methodology, challenging it very critically, creating a hypothesis, testing it, adjusting those variables and ways that you test the hypothesis to see if it can be predicted, replicated, and proven true based on your experiment. There's nothing wrong with that at all. No, Project Blue Book Season 2 begins in about an hour. We'll be off by then. You won't be missing it, Paul. We'll be off then. We're starting to dwindle down a little bit on Justin Brown, but we're at 9 viewers at RU Media. Everybody give a round of applause for RU Media.
We've had at least 14 at one point.
That's awesome. I love that. I love the RU Media support for this show.
And they're asking questions and they're engaging and
that you get an A. Everyone on RU Media, Justin Brown and YouTube and Periscope. I know you're out there, Periscope. You all get A's tonight. Oh, seems like in today's times, more science. Oh, I read that. What's wrong with me? You girls help me do this job. I screwed it up.
Nocturnal.
I was, but
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Missy.
it's okay.
Nocturnal says, did you see when a Buddha died and was reincarnated into a little boy that later recognized his old friends in the old temple?
I haven't read that specifically. If I did, I don't remember, but Buddha definitely taught about reincarnation. And that's where karma comes from. A lot of people think like karma's like, oh, they did something bad to me. It's going to come back to get them here in a few weeks or a few months. That's not what actual karma is. Karma is that you did something bad in the previous life and it's manifesting in this current life based on Buddhism. Hypotheses are easy to develop. Theory is much harder. Yeah, unfortunately. Because a hypothesis is just an idea or a question. Come up with them all day.
Philip said, but scientists have to prove the survival of the human consciousness before anything in the paranormal can be considered provable, for lack of a better word.
Absolutely true. And I think that once we are able to prove the quantum computation and microtubules of the brain, if we can prove that, then we can trace the entangled particle or the entangled properties and quantum properties of the microtubules to the other particles. I think once we start looking into that and seeing what they're actually entangling with, that's the approach, that's the key, that's what they should be looking at. So within the next 50 to 100 years, if we keep with it, throw a bunch of money and smart people at it, we're going to find out if it's true or not. It's going to take 100 years, 100 more years.
Sandy asked, do you believe that a sound, for example, at creak from the floorboard would help a spirit talk, basically through another source of sound?
It's possible. Like the knocks and the rappings that people hear in response to their questions, that's more of a pretty much straightforward way to communicate if that's the only way you can physically interact with the environment. But if I was a ghost and I can knock on something to let you know that I was there, or like a yes or no response type thing, I'd be knocking on your forehead. But maybe that's not how it works.
I don't want to know what with, but okay.
Okay, what was the first thing that popped in your head?
You don't want to know.
Yeah, I do. I really want to know.
No, you don't want to know.
Yeah, I do.
I know what she's thinking.
I super duper want to know the first thing that popped in your head. Because that says a lot about you, Missy.
Just said, point taken. Just say point taken.
No, I don't take points like that.
Paul said, it has been my experience that the fool me twice rule tends to make theory very difficult when proving disembodied consciousness exists.
I don't know if I quite understand that.
He said, meaning I can get a result once using trickery, but I can't pull off the trick twice.
Oh, yeah. I see what he's saying. So if he sets up an experiment. Seems to think that, okay, there's good reason to think that. He goes into a haunted location. There's been thousands of people going in there telling them to jump through a hoop. Paul's got a trap hoop. Paul's like, they're not going to do what I say because they're tired of it. They don't want to talk to me. So I'm going to set something up to trick them into jumping through my hoop or trick them into doing what I want them to do to show me that they're there. So he's got to outsmart the ghost. And I like that. And I learned every trick that man throws at me, we have tried and that we try to implement. And it makes sense. If I'm hanging out in my house for a long time after I'm dead, either it's my soul or the energy manifestation of who I once was is there. And a million people come to me and say, hey, knock twice if you're there. I may knock twice a few dozen times, but then I'm going to get tired of it because I'm not a slave to them. So here comes Paul. Paul's going to set something up, appealing to my vanity, setting up something really enticing, something fresh out of the box, and he's going to convince me to do it for him. So you all should be thinking like that. If your normal, methods are not working, read Think Outside the Box by Paul Browning and try those things.
Sandy said, not what I mean. I mean, actually through the sound of something else. And the spirit uses that sound to speak. I've had that happen to me.
So the sound is being modulated into speech, or they're like knocking on something to speak? Let me make sure I'm understanding what she's saying. Because both of those are possible, and I think happen.
Mothman says, can you use a quantum physics to resurrect the dead on planet Jupiter, like the
He's back on it again.
TOYNBEE idea in the movie 2001?
If Star Trek can beam people ship to ship and ship to planet and planet to ship, then yeah, it's possible.
Philip said,
thanks, Gil.
Sorry. Philip said, but for it to be scientific, they would have to be able to measure, trace, and duplicate a human consciousness. I'm too tired to get this deep tonight. LOL.
Who's that comment is that?
Philip.
Oh, it must be a little bit further up because okay. But for it to be scientific, they would have to be able to measure, trace, and duplicate a human consciousness, ? I'm too tired to get this deep tonight. LOL. I'm sorry, Philip, that you're too tired. Maybe you can get me on Skype and we can broadcast it out to people at a more suitable time for you to flush out every great idea that you got.
He said, I'm not going to haunt my own house. I'm going to upgrade to a mansion.
Why not? Why not? But if my family's there, or if I think my family's still at that house, which I think is why a lot of people haunt places, they're trying to connect back with their loved ones. They don't want to leave. You ever watch that movie? What was that movie? That recent ghost movie was a student film about the guy in a sheet, and he haunted his own house because he loved the house. What was that movie called? Ghost? A Ghost Story. That's what it was called, A Ghost Story. If you have not watched the movie A Ghost Story, you need to. Dun 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 dun. General 7 says, I think they use neutrinos to move people through walls, etc., or mess with the molecular. There's a lot of people think that neutrinos are what make up ghosts because they're called the ghost particle because they're the only particle detected by science or people who detect such things that weakly interact with physical matter. So thus they try to relate it to ghost phenomena, which I don't entirely think is true. I haven't seen really strong supporting evidence of it. But if that is true, then that would be cool. Paul asks, I have to ask myself why any spirit would bother to give me the time of day with the kind of thinking I develop my methods. Well, I asked myself that too, Paul. And let's just take the story about Waverly Hills. My first time to Waverly Hills Sanatorium, I asked myself the same thing. Why would the entities and energies there give a crap about me after all the people that's already been there? So what I did was I started researching what they went through. I started watching documentaries, reading articles about that actual tuberculosis hospital and other tuberculosis hospital, and started, sympathetically connecting with what it's like to have TB, the families, what they went through, the people who worked at those facilities, the whole spectrum of possibility. I fixated on that for the weeks and months leading up to an investigation. And it just so worked out that when Tina Mattingly took us in there for the first tour, she didn't want me to film her, so I didn't have anything with me to distract me. So when I walk into the building and she's, pointing out this, that, and the other, I start feeling very strange. I start feeling what I believe that they were feeling, the impending doom of death. And I started acting pretty much like Amy Allen on Dead Files walking through there. I mean, Missy could tell you, I was...
He freaked every one of it. He freaked me out so bad. I was like...
They were like, what the fuck's wrong with Justin Brown?
I was taking pictures of him and all kinds of shit.
My heart felt like it was going to beat out of my chest multiple times. So yeah, that's what I did. But I appreciate other ways of trying to answer that question and get reactions and interaction. That's a way to do it.
Philip said, he asked, are we actually seeing the ghost go through the wall, or are we seeing the image through telepathy from the ghost and the ghost isn't actually there?
Both of them I see could be possible. Another theory is that when ghosts walk through walls, it's like stone tape theory, and they're just navigating through a structure that was different at that time. Maybe there was a wall put up where there was a doorway before. I've heard that before. But if we can all agree on one thing, ghosts are not physical things and they're immaterial, then walls aren't going to stop them. And yeah, if you are ever interested in more theories about the quantum level and ghost phenomena, I did a show on this page, on this channel, about psychic tunneling. That definitely relates.
You want to read Nocturnal's comment, Jess?
I can. Where is it? Is it on up?
He said, I'd like to see what Amy Allen sees.
Oh, yeah. There's people out there that do. It would be interesting. I think people say that and then they would see that and they're like, I was wrong. Jess would think that, right?
No, I mean, I see things, but then I don't see things. I mean, I see things, but it's not all the time. But I think I'm thinking I block that. I see some things.
The way you see them, I think, is the same way I see things. We get the information and our imagination interprets that information. You reconstruct the scenario in your head.
Well, when you wake up and you're laying on the side of the bed and you look and you see, a floating head.
That's different.
Right. I mean, so I see things, but then it's like, when I was talking to your mom about the Rose Hotel, I was picking up the train and stuff, and she was telling me, she goes, he was sitting right there. I didn't see him. But yeah, there's times that I do see things. I was outside doing a reading. I'm on the back porch. I look over. I see a transparent, I could see somebody right there, but it's not all the time.
Yeah, that's cool. Mothman says, I don't buy into afterlife soul. I think it's an overmind, a cosmic consciousness, a force energy which retains memory and communicates with humans. That's my view on it. And that's what I'm saying, that partially what I'm saying is the physical mind is entangled with an energy that we interpret as a soul. But when Paul asks, is there a finite number of souls? And I said, probably not. I believe, okay, I'll end the show with this, guys, because it's getting late. But I could definitely tell that people like this show. I guess. You guys say you do. So let's end this show with this thought. There is energy that makes up our physical world. That cannot be created nor destroyed. But I don't believe that that's our soul. Our soul is the ghost form of us. But I don't quite understand it yet. And I talk about a trinity. There's the physical body, there's the soul, and there's the consciousness in between. The consciousness can take on many forms. Psychokinetics, PK, can do lots of weird things. Living people can cause it. Living people can be agents of PK, and dead people can be agents of PK. It goes hand in hand. Our PK can haunt multiple places. It can haunt one location. It can attach to people. People can sense other PK, see other PK, hear other PK manifestations. But that is not necessarily what we perceive as the soul. The soul is the entity apart from ours. It's the dual existence of ourselves. If you believe in reincarnation, if you believe in Christianity, it's the one that comes from God or comes from the source, whatever you want to say, that is using our body as a vessel to process information that it has a motive for. There's an intent there, or why else would they do it? It takes information from this life that we live and uses it in the afterlife and maybe other lives. There is an information gathering process taking place, and the soul might be the messenger of that information to the source. So there's a trinity going on. There's the energy of our physical mass. There's the psychokinetic form of ourselves. That is the energy that manifests from our actual physical consciousness. And then there's a soul that's entangled with the PK, that's entangled with the physical consciousness state. And it takes that information. So that is what my current model is. And it's probably way more complex, or maybe more simple than that. But it's cool to think about nonetheless. I really, really love everybody's questions and thoughts on it. If you don't agree with me, that's great. If you think that I'm a bum and live in my mom and dad's basement and don't do anything with my life, whatever. Okay. If you want to continue to hate me and, try to, make me feel bad about myself, you're wasting your time. But for the people that do like what I'm doing and do like what I'm talking about and want to see me continue my research, I will do so. Any final questions or thoughts before we sign off here? The soul is a vessel of your spirit.
Mothman said, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say the body is the vessel for the spirit in my mind.
Mothman said, if that's what you mean about soul, then I'm there. Just a word I don't use often. I get you, though. Well said.
Don't get caught up on the words, the semantics that I use. Relate and connect with the concepts that I'm trying to explain. And sometimes that can get lost in translation. I will write a book. So anybody interested in what I think and what other people that I learn from think, it'll be in there. And there's books out there, hundreds of books out there that explains these things already. I'm glad that you all find it interesting. Jen says it failed the phone trolley. I'm sorry. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me. I'm going to wrap it up. Thank John Harris for the like. I really appreciate it. I like to see everybody supporting the show. If you want to learn how to support the show more, here's some links for you. Interfacedeath.net is our website. Please consider signing up to the newsletter so you don't miss anything. I don't spam your inbox, so I promise you that. It's got all of our social media, all of our videos, all the information about what we do. Facebook is where we stream from, the Justin Brown Paranormal Research. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. Patreon is a way to give financial support and get rewards for it. Please consider subscribing to Interface Death on YouTube if you have not already. PayPal, if you just want to do a small one-time donation, the link is in the video description. And you can PayPal me at Justin Kane Brown 1979. And you can join our Discord community, which is linked there as well. United Paranormal Society is a Facebook group that we talk about all things paranormal, whether it be UFOs, cryptids, ghosts, what have you. Please join. We would be glad to have you. And Patreon is, like I said, a way you can financially support us, get rewards, and get special things, special access. Please extend your thanks to Clay Borman, Katie Turner, R.J. Murphy, Scotty Fox, Casey Schreiner, Jessica Bias, Paranormal Reporter, Anthony Grothis, Bonnie Ring, Heather Elliott, Joe Vitale, The Ghost Guild, Kelly McConkey, Tony Pelosi, Betty Kegley, Cherry Capital Shadow Seekers, Deadlight LLC, and General 7. They're the ones who ensure this content is here to stay, help us, produce these shows, produce the video content, and do the paranormal research that you see us do all the time on the shows, out in the field, everywhere. And that's where I'm going to leave it. We love you guys. You're in our hearts. You're in our thoughts. Interface Death Weekly, episode 3 is Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Next week, we have Necromancer on Wednesday. I believe we got Robbie Thomas, a psychic profiler. Should be a great show. And we'll have Soapbox and Interface Death Weekly next week as well. You guys are great. Stick around for some video promotions if you have not seen them, or stick around and chat. As we end the show with the video promotions, I'm going to leave it there. You guys have a wonderful night. We'll see you next time. Of that. That morbid curiosity to explore the darkness. Do you have what it takes to brave the night? You do? Good.
I'd like to see you. What the fuck was that?
your audio from your lavalier. Did the power go off?
Well, I felt like I got pinched. But it wasn't like a
Did the
pinch.
display turn off?
This just died.
You gotta be kidding me.
It just died.
Okay, that's brand new lithium-ion batteries. We'll keep rolling. Dude, there's...
Yeah, but at least that one's definitely documented it. That's still rolling, that camera.
Oh, yeah, this is rolling too.
Yeah, these just freaking died.
Let me double check.
I held it in, the light came on to the title screen. And
Dude, I'm starting to feel really, like, weird sensations touching me, dude. I don't know what's going on.
yeah, it felt like something. Yeah, like just dead as a doornail. And those are brand new.
In recent years, the word paranormal has taken on a new place in thoughts and minds of people everywhere. Once a word associated with blasphemy and the supernatural, paranormal has entered mainstream thoughts and conversations. 42% of American population believe in either ghosts or hauntings today. Within that, the discussions in the media have tripled in the last 20 years. In 2016, a radio talk show rose from the darkness in New York and now has become a popular beam of light with a no-holds-barred paranormal discussion. It's raw, live, and sometimes out of control. It's real and here, allowing all that care to listen to new ideas, new thoughts, old superstitions, and sometimes the downright weird. You want different? You want off the cuff? You want edgy? Then Paratalk Radio is what you should be listening to. It's 2 hours of guests, interviews, skepticism, unusual topics, and outside-the-box strange that pushes every button on the soundboard of life. So again, discover Paratalk Radio. Monday nights on WLFE DB Radio Network, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Paratalk Radio can be seen as live videocast on Facebook and heard on audio streams through iHeart, iTunes, Google.Play, Spotify, Spreaker, Comcast, Radio.com, and so many more. Join Ted and Cindy every Monday with guests and topics that will open a pathway to the unknown, the supernatural, and the paranormal.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the world wide web of weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
Hi, I'm Eric McGill.
And I'm David Woolever.
And we are paranormal investigators welcoming you to join us as we put new theories to the test and attempt to explain strange phenomena. We invite you on a journey that will give you a glimpse into our haunted minds. Hi guys, Eric McGill here, RU Media Network and Our Haunted Minds. I just want to talk to you guys real quick about the awesome some stuff going on behind the scenes. The Our Haunted Minds video is coming along swimmingly, and it's really going to be awesome. As you guys know, Adam Kimmel is joining us for the first investigation with Dave and I. And then after that, we may have Chris, or we may have Becca, or we may have Ashley. But it's really exciting, and you guys are not going to want to miss this first one. A lot of awesome stuff happened.
Hello everyone, I'm the Goose.
And I'm Michael Bradley.
Is that what you're calling yourself tonight?
Heisenberg.
Not the Angry Kitty.
Max Braggins.
Anywho, we're the hosts of the Cryptic Paranormal Show.
On our show, we'll talk about all things paranormal except Bigfoot. He freaks me out.
Really, dude?
You know that, but I mean, I guess we could talk about him as long as I don't have to see him.
We will talk. As a matter of fact, we'll talk about all fields in the paranormal realm.
And every week we will interview new guests, celebrities, and researchers in the field, and all our comrades in the paranormal underground.
And we aren't afraid to ask the hard questions no one else will. Our conversations are rooted in our own experiences as paranormal investigators.
So be prepared to have your minds, your opinions, and your beliefs challenged.
And let's not forget to warn them about all the tomfoolery and shenanigans. Let's just say, you might want to put the kiddos to bed before tuning in. They don't call us the paranormal shock jocks for nothing.
Do they call us that?
If they don't, they will.
So be sure to tune into the Cryptic Paranormal Show every Thursday night from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, only on RU Media Network.
Spook you later, crypto heads.
Bye.
Shut up.
Welcome into the Abyss with your host, Sean Gilmore. Open your mind, both of your ears, and all three of your eyes to discuss all things supernatural with weekly special guests. We believe that we all learn from each other and we all have a lot to learn. What will you learn today? Here is your host, Sean Gilmore.